Hello, today we're here to talk about our emotions. I think this is called Let's Talk About Our Emotions. Today we're going to talk about the emotions we're all feeling right now around COVID-19 and being required to stay home. At least I am with my 2-year-old, and oh God. Before we get into it, I'd like to introduce Sarah Alexander. She is a fellow DEI licensee and consultant, trainer and consultant, and she's also a licensed clinical social worker. Hello, Sarah. Welcome.
Thank you, Anshin.
I'm really excited to talk about this stuff, partly because I've been having all the feels lately, like just emotions are happening. I also feel like because I don't have the kind of more normal distractions of like, oh, I have a social event to go to.
Right.
I have more time to feel emotions.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people are experiencing that. I have about 20 to 30 people I see every week, and everybody's feeling all the feels. So I have a lot. The gift of that for me, what I'm always so grateful for is I get to see how other people, what's coming up for other people, and talk about this all the live long day.
So does it kind of help you process your own emotions too?
It does. It oftentimes helps reveal things that I'm not yet aware of in myself, but talking about them through somebody else's experience, that principle of common humanity, I begin to see, oh yeah, I can relate to that. That's something that's been kind of like percolating back here, but I hadn't really put on the forefront yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what emotions are you feeling? You want to toss out some vocabulary?
I think here in Oregon, we're in like week 6 of serious stuff. So the first 2 weeks for me personally, all the fears were on point. Well, not all the fears. Like jealousy and envy, I don't think I've experienced yet in this context. But panic, fear, anxiety, and confusion were definitely up those first 2 weeks. I got a lot of stuff done.
Hello, anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. So, like my panic was there. I specialize in working with folks who have trauma. So usually when I talk about trauma, I talk about it in one of two ways. I talk about it as a clear and present danger. That's where fight, flight, freeze is appropriate and life-saving. So we don't want to dismiss it or judge it for whatever choice your body makes in that moment. But most of the trauma, most of the panic that people come to see me for as a therapist actually involves past trauma, like something in the current environment triggers memories of a past trauma event. So it feels as if this saber-toothed tiger is in the room, but it's not. It's in the past. So something about the coronavirus that's been really interesting is for the first time in my 20 years of working with people, it's like the saber-toothed tiger is actually in the vicinity, right? And for some people, it feels like it's actually pounced. For people who have lost their jobs, have lost their employment-based insurance, have housing is threatened. And then people who actually get sick, like my own therapist actually got sick with it.
Oh, geez.
It feels like the saber-toothed tiger is in the village, is right here.
It is here. I mean,
panic
is so appropriate right now.
And the normal clear and present danger strategies of fight, flight, freeze are not going to help us with this. So for the first time for clear and present danger, I've been going to oh shoot, hold on a second. I got to plug my laptop in.
Oh no. Shoot. That's fine, Sarah. That's what editing is for.
Exactly. All right. For the first time, for something that's actually clear and present, I'm using Carla's questions, 3 questions that I usually reserve for past trauma. Or what triggered this? For lots of people, that is the potential threat or the actual threat to health, resources, housing, all those basic survival things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then the second question, she asks what's been frozen in time. As a therapist, I usually go to, what does this remind you of? Such a typical therapy question.
Yeah.
And for some people, this is hearkening back to something in their past, like maybe a history of never feeling like they had support, like they're in this alone, or a history of not having access to resources, and that being threatened right now. But for a lot of people, this is also, there is nothing that this brings to mind. This feels like a very new threat to them. Mm-hmm. But whatever those answers, so sometimes we're talking about the past, but most of the time we're talking about the present. And then we get to the third question, which is what healing actions take place. And whenever I review these questions with folks, we get to this one, and people can get kind of confused because there's a lot of shoulds about healing actions that are not actually in the moment actual healing actions. So I always stress that word healing. So a lot of things could happen, including hypervigilance, including avoidance, including distraction, including all the things you should do, but which ones of them would actually be healing? And I stress that part. And for that part, I'm finding, oh, here's my dog.
Let's see your dog.
Top. You might hear him snorting. He's a pug.
Oh, the snorting.
For the healing action, for that, I'm finding that oftentimes it's another emotion that needs to be tended to, is the healing action that panic is trying to help steer someone towards, and me included. So my panic came up first in this whole mixture of stuff. And I went through those questions, and I get to the question of what healing action needs to happen. And for me, because my strategies that make me feel good in life tend to be in the fear family, the doing, the action, very action-oriented, anxiety was the first healing action. Like I needed to do the work of anxiety. So anxiety is asking, well, first, actually, I bring in fear. I've learned to bring in fear. Like when I see anxiety on the scene, I say, okay, anxiety, I'm going to definitely get to you because you're one of my faves. But I need to go to fear first, because fear is that emotion that helps me orient to novelty and change. And there's tons of novelty and change here in this situation, tons and tons for all of us. So I invite my fear in. I mean, it's there anyway, right? But I invite it in to collaborate with it consciously. And I look around, I say, okay, so I feel my body feels like the saber-toothed tiger is wrestling, is in the yard. Yeah. But when I bring in my fear to orient, to really look around and pay attention to see what's there, what do I notice? Well, I notice that what feels for me in my personal life right now, what feels like the saber-toothed tiger is the imagined scenarios, more so than the actual facts. So for me, my business is down by about 1/4 right now, which is still, relatively speaking, it's still very good compared to what a lot of other people are experiencing. So, but my anxiety says what really needs to happen. And like panic, that word really is kind of like healing. Like you really need to hone down on that word, in my experience, to get at what that emotion is trying to help you do. So when I asked what really needs to happen in my life after I look around and assess things, I needed to go grocery shopping, because at the time the grocery shopping was still a thing. And I need to make sure I've got enough medication, because I've got different medications I need. So I had tasks, and my nervous system loves tasks. So I was busy with that. And doing that helped lower my anxiety. It's still up because it's got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But it helped me do that. And then also with my business, being a therapist, I needed to switch everybody over to telehealth. So all my clients, all my clinicians' clients, and wade through telehealth trainings and figured out the coding stuff and all the details, which kept me very busy for about 2 weeks. And then the third week came. And the third week, the sadness has descended. I keep wanting to curse. I was like, shoot.
I know.
Yeah, because for me, the busyness of the fears are preferential to the heaviness of the sadnesses.
Like the slow down of the sadness, like start looking around. Like,
oh, this.
it's going to be like this, huh?
Yes. Yes. So depression was the first one that got my attention.
Yeah, right.
And I would so much rather be busy and doing and productive than feeling the heaviness of depression. But I know, thank you, Carla's work, I know that depression is there to help too. So I think of depression as like the reality check.
Is this really working?
Yeah, it keeps us tethered to reality. So my mind, I can, if I'm not careful, I can go off into planning and producing and working and doing and all those kinds of stuff that are totally may or may not be an accurate collaboration with what is reality.
Man, I feel like you and I, our brains are very similar in that way. Like I'm much happier in anxiety. I'm like, I'm going to make lists. I'm going to make plans. I'll put it on my schedule. I'm going to do all this stuff. But then I look back and I'm like, God, I did all this stuff, but what does it actually mean? I didn't actually do anything except for being busy.
Right. I've got great lists, but how is that actually solving anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. So depression shows up. I know it's a reality check, so I stop to take a pause again and say, okay, and I think of fear and depression as really similar in the way that they focus us down into what is. Like you need to look around, you need to take stock, you need to, and then with what is, the depression is saying, you don't have to be like all about what is. Like our human brains are awesome things that we can think about the past, we can think about the future, we can think about fantasies and imaginations, things that will never come true. And so many wonderful things come from that. But if we're not tethered to reality, then we're going to miss some really important stuff. And our emotional world knows that. Our emotional world knows we need to keep an eye on that. So I begrudgingly still thank depression when it's on scene, because I know I trust it enough now to pause and pay attention. So when I did that, in the third week, what that started to help me get in touch with was the whole family of sadnesses, and especially grief. And grief turned out to be a really important one for me. So the first 2 weeks, getting everybody transitioned to telehealth, seeing 20 to 30 clients a week on telehealth, I was exhausted at the end of each day. And then, working with my clinicians and worrying about all the stuff, the anxiety stuff, was exhausting. And I was starting to worry that I wouldn't be able to do this. I wouldn't be able to sustain this caseload just when everybody really needs more help. And so after those first 2 weeks, that weekend after that, I purposely invited grief in and said, okay, so this one's even scarier sometimes to me than depression. And at the same time, I've had a couple deaths in the last couple years that have taught me how very beautiful it is. So I was trusting that and applying it here. So something we're all in the same boat with right now is that life as we know it is dead. And our future The future we were planning for is dead. Like, all of it may come back. It's possible. We don't know when or how. And we don't know for sure. There's no guarantees about it. But for right now, they're dead. And the prospect of having to decrease my caseload because I couldn't, because it was too heavy for me to carry, that in particular got me into touch with my grief, because I started thinking about, but if I take a break from clients for a couple weeks or a week, or, winnow it down, when I'm ready to come back to them, they might not be there. Like, they might lose their jobs. They might lose their insurance. I don't know how long I'll get to work with these folks in the current situation. And that really got me in touch with what's precious about my work, that I love working with people. People fascinate me endlessly. And these particular people, I have relationships with all of them, that are months to years old. And getting into touch with how precious those relationships are for me, and the fact that right now I get to still see them. I don't know how long that's going to last for each of them, but right now I still get to be in contact with them and be a part of their lives and see what's going on and interact. That brought a whole new level of rejuvenation to my system. So starting with the Monday after that, I didn't come home as drained each night since then from work. Like, I'm back to my baseline of this work I do rejuvenates me. And I think the Sadness family helped that happen. Without the Sadness family, that wouldn't have happened. I would have been so in my go, go, go. I would have continued to be on a path of burnout.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm trying to keep an eye on both those families. Like, I need the doing of the fear family, the action oriented, and then I need the release of the sadness family, and like accelerator and brakes. Like, both are important to drive safely.
Mm-hmm.
And too far into the fears, that can end up for me looking like distraction into productivity that isn't really productive, but it's distracting. Yeah. If I get too far into the sadnesses, it can look like kind of collapse, like a collapse under the weight of things, or it can look like spiritual bypassing, like I get into the preciousness of everything, but I lose touch with the things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I need both working together is what I'm striving for currently.
And then you said that you've been working with anger this week.
And then anger showed up. Anger started showing up the end of last week and this week. Oh, sister. Yeah, so there's I'm just going to dive into hate. So there's so much tension right now between folks who want to prioritize protecting the vulnerable, including the medical system, not overwhelming the medical system, and folks who want to protect the jobs and income and the ability to pay bills.
Yeah.
And I think there's a risk of getting polarized there, as if, oh shoot, hold on a second. All right. Okay, so there's polarized. There's this threat of becoming polarized, as if we have to pick one over the other. And I found myself on my particular side of that polarization going far in one direction. Mm-hmm. And people who were representing the other polarization, I was noticing, some people really are wary of using that word hate.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think it has, all these emotions have really bad connotations to them. I give this word, I'm going to go ahead and call this hate. It wasn't to the level of I'm going to go out and like bash heads kind of stuff. But I was passing judgment. I was all kinds of things. And hate is the emotion that helps us recognize what we have cast into our own shadows. So what we've cut off in ourselves. And the first clue for me came with recognizing that as I was becoming more polarized and judging the folks over here, that a little voice in me was saying, well, if they go out and they open everything up and I stay home and I stay on my telehealth, so I'm safe, but they get the economy moving, so they fix my problem about money stuff, but they get sick, it'll be okay. And that was the hate.
Oh, yeah.
Really kind of, just that is not a part of me that I want revealed usually, right? But here I am revealing it because I think it's important. Once I could recognize that and put the word hate to it and own that that was coming out of my own shadow, that maybe one of the things I've cut off in myself as a healer is that I should prioritize healing above money, right? But I have the same money needs that anybody else has. And if I cast responsibility for meeting those needs on a whole group of people as if they're the bad ones and I'm good over here, that contributes to the whole problem that is tearing us apart as a nation right now. So if I own my hate and say, okay, I'm on here, but I understand the core of what they're saying too. I understand the importance. Then I can see that the hate is hate. If the things that we cast off on our shadows, that we cut off on ourselves. Carl Jung said that the purpose of growth is not perfection. It's I think what was the word he used? Integration, something like integration. I'm forgetting the quote now, but it's not about making ourselves perfect. It's about becoming whole. That's how he put it. The whole purpose is to become whole. So acknowledging that I have a value in me, which says we need to protect valuable groups and systems. That's true. I'm going to keep that. And there's a part of me that can be cut off that says money is greedy and money is bad and root of all evil kind of stuff.
Sure.
But that's not true. It's also needed for survival. It's a legitimate thing. And so to make me whole is to bring those two parts together and to be part of the conversation that doesn't demonize either side. Like if we could all do our hate work, if we could all accept those parts that we cut off in ourselves, like if this side is cutting off their vulnerability, like they're in their shadow is their own vulnerability. They don't want to be, they don't want to think that they have that, or they don't want to be reminded that they have that by having to see how vulnerable populations are being impacted. Like that reduces their wholeness too, and their whole experience of life. They would benefit and I would benefit from us coming together and figuring out how to take care of both things. They don't have to be exclusive from one another. And our hate helps us do that. That's the beauty of hate.
Right. It helps us see those things that we don't want to see.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's honestly, hatred is one of those emotions that you can't not know that you're feeling it. I mean, you might not want to know that you're feeling it because just the word hatred is so far in the shadow that, and by shadow, I mean, the things that you don't want to accept about yourself. Right?
Exactly. Right.
So it's like pushed so far under the rug that you're like, there's a giant lump there, but I have never seen that lump. We just go over it. We just walk over it. We vacuum over it.
Yes. Yes. But the gift of it is my healing, and with my healing, one step closer to world healing.
Yeah. And the thing is like working with emotions is often not comfortable. It forces you to recognize these really hard truths about yourself.
Yes.
Part of you does not want to acknowledge.
Right. Exactly.
But
and that's what life is. I mean, if we avoid all of that, then we're not living. We're not
growing.
Rich life. They make life hard too, but there's so much richness that comes with it.
I know, yeah. Same with grief. I mean, you're having to accept a truth, a loss that you don't want to. You just don't have a choice about it. It's
right.
It seems like for me, a lot of my most profound lessons have been through emotions that I haven't wanted to feel, and that I'm a big one for resistance. I'm like, oh no, things are fine. Yep. I'm not gonna deal with this right now.
Yep.
But the emotions don't go away because I want them to.
No.
They're still there. They're still like knocking on the door. Hey, Aunt Jen, yes. You're feeling really apathetic this week. What's going on? I don't want to talk about it, right? Yeah. And then, 2 weeks later, a month later, 6 months later, however long it is that I managed to hold the beast at bay, finally, eventually it's going to knock down the door.
Yes.
I mean, emotions will prevail.
They don't put them under the rug or push them away or get distracted. No, it's just a matter of time. They always win, just like the body. The body, in the end, has the last say.
Yeah.
Not our mind, not our ideas about how things should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. This week I've been working a lot with depression and apathy, and just a sense of, there's a lot I don't have control over right now.
Yeah.
And there are certain things I can do, but there's just so much that I can't fix it with my anxiety and my to-do lists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not there yet, but my depression's definitely been present. And I feel like my depression and apathy have been working together, giving me space around this sense of wanting to control things that I don't have any control over.
Right.
And I'm sure that grief is going to come in. I'm just waiting for grief to come in and wash it away, or like to recognize, okay, Aunt Jen, what impossible thing are you trying to control? Right? I mean, I live with a 2-year-old, and this is my first. I don't have any other kids. I didn't grow up around like taking care of kids, so I'm a really clueless parent. I'm super embarrassed to admit this. I'm so clueless. And we're going through a phase right now, which is incredibly frustrating. Where my daughter, she's been potty trained for almost a year, but now she's peeing in the bed and peeing. She'll just like not go to the potty anymore. And it's like we're having physical battles trying to get her to use the effing toilet. I'm so angry about this. And so finally I just went to apathy and depression about it. I was like, whatever. I don't care. You do your thing. But it gave me some space. And in that space, I did a little research, went to one of the parenting guru websites, right? I was like, all right, let's find something pertaining to this issue here. And it was actually really helpful. I learned that I haven't been setting boundaries in an appropriate way with her. I've been really lenient because we're in a weird situation and she's emotional, and I have to, be more mommy-like. And obviously what she really needs is some very clear boundaries. And
2-year-olds are all about the boundaries.
I know, right? And I'm happy with that. It's just she has grown faster than my parenting skills have been able to catch up with her.
And isn't it brilliant that all along the frustration you were feeling, the anger you were feeling, knew?
Yeah.
Anger is all about boundaries.
Right.
So it was on point, even if you were like, no, to be a good parent, I can't be angry. Like I have to like call that something else maybe.
Totally. Yeah. But also I was setting boundaries in the wrong way. Too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was setting them for me from my anger rather than understanding, well, it's not that she hates me. It's not that she has a vendetta against me. That's very tempting. Right. She's all about her. And what she needs. And so just a little empathy can help things out.
Yes.
So we're still working through this, but I had a good success getting her to sit on the toilet without a fight last night, and I'm like crossing my fingers.
My heart goes out to parents of small kids right now.
Oh my God, I'm so glad we only have one. I mean, I can't imagine having multiple kids or like having babies or I don't know. One's enough for me, but
I said that to another parent about I only have one too. He's 23 now. But I said, oh, I had all these troubles and it was just one. I can't imagine parents with more. And she's like, and as a parent with more, I can't imagine just having one because they would like play with each other. And if it was just one, it would be me and them the whole time.
hmm.
I was like, oh, okay.
Is but that also led me to looking at articles about encouraging independent play. And that's something that I haven't done with her because I've been feeling guilty for taking her out of daycare and like not giving her anybody else to play with. I was like, she only has me, so I should, there's a shame one, should be doing this.
Uh-huh.
So it's been forcing me to learn and grow, like to really pay attention, but also to listen to my intuition, my soft fear, and that's saying, hey, something's not right here. Like, I know that something's not right, so let's go figure out what I can do about this.
Right. Right. And your emotions are the ones that won't let that lie. Like they're there until the job gets done. And it can take a while for us first to recognize the emotions, then name the emotions, and then like actually do what they actually are trying to help us do rather than they should help us do.
Yeah, it's like a matter of figuring out what they're trying to tell me. What does this pertain to? Which aspect of my life is this relevant to?
Right.
Right. Yes. Oh.
Yeah, I've been thinking about apathy more as a doer. Apathy and boredom are not usually on the scene for me. Like I don't have a lot of experience with them because I'm usually doing. But they're coming up along with all the other angers this week, and Carlos puts the question, what am I avoiding to it? Is it what am I ignoring or what am I avoiding? I always forget. Avoiding. A lot. Avoiding? Okay. And as you were talking, I was going to ask you, like, how are you using apathy to go through this? Because I don't know how to use it. But then once I thought of that question, I was like, what am I avoiding? Oh, it's still the sadness emotions. Like, I still want to be busy and find an answer and a solution and work on it rather than be with the releasing, the letting go.
Yeah. And I think that sadnesses are going to keep coming up. It came up for me this morning when I realized that one of my favorite coffee shops is closed. And I thought, oh, I can't even go and get a pickup coffee there. And this is kind of ironic because I don't drink coffee anymore, but I really love the idea of it. So this idea is dying.
Oh. Ironically, what I've discovered over the years is fantasies die harder than realities. Yeah, have a hard enough.
Oh, that's so sad. I think you're really right about that, though. I haven't considered that, but I'm a big person around food. Like food is one of the big comforts that I have that I think about a lot. And I'm like, ooh, ice cream, it's so great. Except I don't eat dairy anymore, and ice cream isn't that great. Like I don't really like it that much anymore. But the idea of ice cream, it's like, oh, I'm loved.
Yes.
So
yes.
I've been wondering if I could just use these ideas of food or like coffee as part of my rejuvenation practice. I'm like, oh, I'm eating a delicious bowl of ice cream right now.
Oh, I could do a whole nother hour just on the food part.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, Sarah, thank you for this conversation. I really appreciate it, and it was really lovely to talk more in depth about the emotions coming up around being in a pandemic. Who
Yes.
would guess that I would ever say those words in a sentence? That was, I'm still so much in disbelief. Like, is this really happening to me? Like, pinch myself here. Really?
Happening.
It's just wild.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I very much enjoyed doing this, and I look forward to seeing your other talks too, because
Thanks.
the more we talk about this thing within our community, the more is revealed to me, and it's always very, very useful.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's so fascinating just to talk about emotions, and I feel like the more we talk about them, the more we learn about ourselves and also about how emotions work in other people, because it's different for each person, right? We all learn how to work with our emotions different or not work with our emotions as we're growing up, right? And we're all going through a process of learning like, oh, hey, when I'm craving ice cream, it actually means that I'm feeling really lonely and I need to reach out to somebody.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.